Imagine stealing somebody's phone and uncovering a double murder. Before we get into this case, if you like deep dives, I do post a brand new episode on my podcast, The Born Investigation, every single week. It was the 30th of September 2019 in Alaska. A woman had been living on the streets in the area and struggling to even feed herself. She'd fallen into homelessness, substance abuse, and she was working as an S worker just to make ends meet. So she would regularly get picked up by truckers, and after being picked up by this one particular trucker, he left her in his car with his phone. She saw an opportunity. It's obviously absolutely not right to steal anything from anybody, but she quickly swiped it thinking, I can make some extra cash here, I'll just sell the phone. She had no idea that that decision would uncover a potential serial killer. Flicking through the phone to see if she could sell it, she was stopped dead in her tracks. On that phone were graphic photos and videos of a torture and murder. She was like, oh my God, firstly, it could have been me. Like, that could have easily been me on those videos. Secondly, I need to hand this into police, but I don't want to get in trouble because technically I've just stolen this phone. Anyway, she decided to hand the phone over. At first, I think she said, oh, like I found it, but eventually she admitted that she did steal it from this guy. And they could not believe what they saw on that device. The memory card contained a total of 39 images and 12 videos. And this painted an absolutely sickening picture of one poor woman's last moments on this earth. A woman called Kathleen Henry, just 30 years old, could be seen on the videos, being AR'd, tortured, strangled, and beaten to death. I don't know how you sleep at night if that is your job as a police officer, to have to sit and watch all of that disgusting stuff. In one of the videos, a voice is saying, in my movies, everybody always dies. What are my followers going to think of me? People need to know when they are being serial killed. The phone belonged to a guy called Brian Smith, originally from South Africa with quite a significant accent. It didn't take long to track him down. The videos were taken in a hotel with a very distinctive carpet. It turned out to be a Marriott hotel room, and working with the hotel, the police figured out who this was. Thankfully, they tracked him down just as it seemed like he was about to flee the country. He was at the airport. Meanwhile, a call came into police. A skull had been found by the highway, and this skull was the same woman that had appeared on those videos. But that wasn't even the worst part. While in police custody, Brian asked, can I go to the toilet? Like, can I be taken to the bathroom? And as he was escorted there, he decided to casually admit another murder. 53-year-old Veronica Abuchuk. He couldn't even remember when he killed her, which leads me to believe that he may have more victims than even the two. He just admitted having her over at his house behind his wife's back. Yes, he had a whole wife while he was doing all of this. And they got into an argument and he shot her in the head. Now, these were two Indigenous women, and cases involving Indigenous women going missing or being murdered are tragically just honestly unsolved a lot of the time or swept under the rug. At his trial, he was thankfully found guilty of first and second degree murder, as well as tampering with evidence and SA. He was sentenced to 226 years. Finally, a decent sentence in one of these cases.
In October of 2022, 15-year-old Austin Thompson returned home from school with his brother James. They were playing video games, and then at some point, Austin got up, grabbed a gun, shot his brother James in the head, who survived initially. And then he proceeded to stab his brother 57 times. And the terror of that day did not end there. After killing his own brother, Austin would then change out of his school clothes into full camouflage, would grab a shotgun and a handgun, along with fishing hooks, $700 in cash, prepackaged food, water, knives, and other survival gear. With all of that, he then walked out of his home and started terrorizing his Raleigh, North Carolina neighborhood. 5 people and 1 dog lost their lives that day because of Austin. Nicole Connors and Lynn Gardner that day were outside walking their dogs. On video, Austin was seen approaching them and he opened fire on both of them. Lynn Gardner remembers Nicole commenting, asking why they were being shot at. Nicole Connors and her dog were killed by Austin, and Lynn Gardner suffered several injuries due to being shot at. She still has a bullet fragment near her heart that they cannot remove. She was hospitalized for 3 months, suffered with hearing loss as well as short-term memory loss. Nicole's husband, Tracy Howard, says that he does not enjoy life the way that he used to. He said that this has left him emotionally, mentally, and financially unstable. And then there was Gabriel Torres. He was only 29 years old, and he was a Raleigh police officer getting ready to leave his home to go to work. But instead, in his car, he was shot to death by Austin. His wife Jasmine returned home with their 2-year-old daughter and was wondering why her husband wasn't coming out of his car to go greet them. And then she saw that he was bleeding substantially, and she did everything she could to cover the wound and to help him survive, but tragically he passed away at the hospital. Their daughter is now 5 years old and has lived 3 years of her life without her dad. And then there was Mary Marshall and Susan Cornett. Susan was just on her daily jog when Austin gunned her down, and Mary, her dog had gotten out and she was just trying to go get her dog back. Susan's husband Tom was waiting for her to come meet him for dinner. They were going to have a nice dinner out together, but he kept checking her location, and it was in that neighborhood where he had just heard on the news that a shooting occurred. Mary Marshall had been in the Navy, and she was just 2 weeks away from marrying the love of her life. Her and her fiance Rob were so excited to have a Halloween spooky wedding because they both loved the holiday. Instead of her wedding day, that day became her celebration of life. After Austin murdered 5 innocent people, including his own brother, he then ran into the woods like a coward, and as police officers were closing in on him, he held the firearm to himself and shot himself in the head. He survived to plead guilty to all 5 of the murders, the attempted murders, the other atrocious crimes that he committed. And he was sentenced 4 days ago to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
She was seen burning things behind the dumpster. Her toddler's room smells like bleach. And now she's reporting her toddler missing. Adrienne Reed called 911 on February 16th of 2026 to report that her daughter, Genesis Reed, was missing from her bed and the front door of the apartment was open. When police dug into this case a little further, they found out that neighbors hadn't seen Genesis in weeks, the daycare hadn't seen Genesis since December, and Adrienne's baby daddy hadn't seen Genesis all month. Apparently, on Valentine's Day, when one of the neighbors asked Adrienne where Genesis was, Adrienne said, "I don't know," and kept walking. People had smelled a nasty smell coming from Adrienne's house. People had also seen Adrienne burning things behind the dumpster. When police went into Genesis's room, it was super clean, completely spotless, and smelled like bleach. There is also a social media video going around of a bloody mattress found in the woods across the street from Adrienne's apartment. Although people are speculating that this mattress has something to do with the case, authorities have not confirmed that these claims are factual evidence in the case. Adrienne was arrested after investigators found lots of inconsistencies in her story. Adrienne is being held on a $1 million bond because officials believe that she's a flight risk and she knows exactly what happened to Genesis. Now, Adrienne has hired one of the most top-performing, high-profile attorneys in the Enterprise, Alabama area. Adrienne's attorney has filed a motion to get Adrienne's bond reduced because there isn't any evidence that she did anything wrong. Honestly, I think Adrienne should focus less on hiring an attorney and more on finding her daughter. Now, this case is ongoing, so we will see what happens next. But what do you guys think about this case?
There's a fire.
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
That is Kimberly Sullivan, the stepmom from hell who allegedly kept her stepson captive for 20 years. The victim, who goes by S and is now 32 years old, had been trapped in this house, locked in his room, since he was 11 years old. And Kimberly Sullivan, who let her own child roam free in the house, never allowed him to do the same thing and kept him emaciated. He weighed only 68 pounds when he was found in the house, and he set fire to the house from his room in order to actually escape. He laid on his bedroom floor until a first responder could come and get him. He did this to ensure that it would be a first responder to save him and not Kimberly, and to make sure that he could tell them exactly what happened to him. He was also extremely dirty, disheveled, and his teeth were rotting and falling out. He said that whenever he was allowed to eat food and he would eat food, more parts of his teeth would fall out. Although Kimberly was arrested, she was let out on a $300,000 bond, but she was just given new charges 5 days ago. She is now facing multiple counts of the charges that she received last year. These charges are for first-degree kidnapping, along with charges of assault, unlawful restraint, and intentional cruelty to a person.
She continues to support and defend her husband, who is turned on by children getting SA'd. Brittany Stapleton is on the internet publicly standing by her husband, Joshua Stapleton, who was found with 440 photos and 17 videos of child porn. These photos and videos depicted prepubescent children being essayed and exploited. Now, Joshua admitted that he did watch child porn, but he had no idea that it was illegal. During Joshua's police interrogation, police asked him what he thought about the explicit photos of children. Joshua said, "People are people, bodies are bodies, we're all the same." Brittany Stapleton admitted to knowing what her husband was doing well before he got caught. She supported him then, and she still supports him now.
Or did she know? Do we think she knew? How did she not know? Absolutely, I knew. Josh and I were friends way before we ever started dating. So when the charges occurred, we were friends. You better believe I hit him up, because as soon as I saw it, I have a really good judge of character, and I knew something was up.
Brittany continues to defend her husband on their joint TikTok account, Gulf Coast Stapletons. She even video chats with him while he's in prison.
I love you.
I love you. Miss you so much. This will be behind us soon, though. Think about how fast these 5 years went.
Joshua was being charged with 40 counts of exploitation of children, but after a non-negotiated plea agreement, they dropped 20 counts. For the remaining 20 counts, Joshua received 5 years in prison and 15 years on probation. That's it. What do you guys think about this case?
The text messages are so disturbing. Noah Beck's teacher sister, Haley Beck, has been grooming a high school student. She texted a minor saying, and I quote, "You know you could always just get off with me. Just call me if you're feeling crazy." She also said, "Sleepover in Anthem?" Haley, who is 27 years old, has worked for Centennial High School in Arizona since 2020. She taught psychology and sociology and reportedly started grooming a student before he turned 18 years old while he was a sophomore and junior in high school. She did his homework, she improved his grades, she let him have access to her car, she bought him alcohol, drugs, food, gifts, gave him money, and literally wrote that she felt like she was his sugar mama. And she even wrote that it felt like straight prostitution. The investigation into Haley lasted 6 weeks, and there's a 200-page police report. She exchanged over 4,000 text messages with the student about illegal activity and about having sex with him. And at the exact same time that all of this came out about Haley, it also came out about another teacher at the exact same school, Angela Berlocka, who is 47 years old. And it gets even weirder than that. They were both going after the exact same student. Haley tried to justify her relationship with the student over Angela's by saying, "I mean, yeah, I guess, but even though our situation is still not right, at least we are closer in age. 17 and 27 is still a 10-year difference, and that boy's brain was nowhere near developed." Although this initially came out in August of 2025 when both of them were put on administrative leave, authorities just resubmitted the case on Thursday, so charges for both of them could be coming soon.
To understand why this man is so happy to be stuck in his car on the railway tracks, we need to rewind. It was the end of January 2021 in New Haven, Connecticut. Young couple Kevin Jiang and Zion Perry couldn't have been more in love, and Kevin was about to prove it. He took Zion to this picturesque waterfall and fell to one knee, showing her this big sparkly ring. The couple were just so happy. Kevin was described as the most genuine soul, a really lovely, positive, uplifting guy that really brought so much joy into Zion's life. She could not wait to marry her Prince Charming, not knowing that within a week he would be dead. Now, the proposal had been a really magical moment, a far cry from the horror that had been going on in the local neighborhood. Over the past few weeks, random homes had been targeted by a gunman or gunmen. It was the most terrifying but bizarre situation ever. This gunman or gunmen would break into people's homes and just start shooting and then flee. Thankfully, nobody had been hurt so far. These neighbors would tell police, "We didn't see the guy himself, but we saw a dark-colored SUV then flee the scene." Police were desperately trying to track this crazed gunman down, but time was about to run out. At 8:30 p.m. on the 6th of February, gunshots rang out. Tragically, Kevin lay dead on the street outside his home. He had 8 gunshot wounds to the face and head. Unlike the other attacks, this one seemed personal and seemed like the gunman meant business. Had the gunman been practicing all of those times before, ready for the real thing? Now, scouring the local CCTV and doorbell cameras, police noticed once again that dark SUV. But chillingly, the camera also captured a figure dressed in black. Then he suddenly went out of view, and screams and gunfire could be heard. Multiple traumatized witnesses came forward to be like, we literally saw this happen. It was cold-blooded murder. He stood over him. And Zion was understandably devastated. Like, she was so in love. She'd only just said goodbye to Kevin. They'd been together just minutes prior, not knowing that was their final goodbye. Bizarrely, just hours later, police got another call. This time it was from a security guard, reporting that a man was stuck in his car on the train tracks. Obviously very dangerous, but he looked weirdly happy to be there. He was like beaming, and police thought, something's off here. They checked his driver's license and it stated Kingshin Pan. He had a clean background check, so police just sent him off on his way, presuming, okay, he's just a confused guy that has lost his way and then got stuck. They helped him with a tow truck, not realizing that wouldn't be the last they would see of him. Now, hours later, they got a call from a place called Arby's. I'm not familiar. It kind of seems like a Denny's or a McDonald's. If anyone knows Arby's, let me know. The employee sounded really worried on the phone. She was like, we found a gun and bullets. Police raced over to see what was going on and immediately recognized these bags that they saw. They'd been ditched at the front of the Arby's, and they were very clearly the same bags that had been in Kingshin Pan's car. Suddenly it dawned on them, oh my god, the car on the tracks was a dark SUV, the same as in Kevin's murder. Had the killer just slipped through their fingers? So they looked on his Facebook profile. They needed to see if he was linked to the victim at all, and interestingly he wasn't, but he was friends with Zion. Now, the last thing that Zion had posted was the engagement announcement. It was kind of all making sense to police now. This guy could have been obsessed with Zion and really angry at the engagement announcement. They had his details on file from his driver's license, and they raced over to his family home. Knocked on the door and nothing. Now, this was super worrying because he lived with his parents and they're thinking, oh my god, has he taken them hostage? Has he killed them? So police started tracking the family's bank cards and noticed they kept taking out very large sums of money. So either this was the family spending a fortune, or maybe Kingshin had stolen the bank cards. They traced the cards to a hotel in North Carolina. And when they got there, they couldn't believe what they found. The receptionist confirmed, oh yeah, the mum's still alive. She's been using the reception phone. Turns out Kingshin's family were helping him flee. Police came to the conclusion that Kingshin was actually obsessed with Zion and really not happy that she was with another man. He'd planned the shootings in the homes prior to the murder to throw the police off the scent, to make it look like it was all random, but it was calculated cold-blooded murder. I guess why he was so jolly on that body cam footage was that he was trying to sweet talk the officers. He didn't want them to put 2 and 2 together. He got stuck on the railway tracks because he was trying to sneak out undetected. He eventually did plead guilty to the murder and was given 35 years in prison.
The singer David has officially been arrested in the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. If you haven't already been following this case, late last year, the body of a 14-year-old girl that had been missing for over a year and a half was found badly decomposed and dismembered in the trunk of this famous viral singer's car. If you don't know this singer by name, you probably know him from some of his songs.
I don't care how long it takes.
In late August 2025, a Tesla was left abandoned in Hollywood for weeks and was towed to a car impound lot. On September 8th, 2025, employees called the police because there was a terrible, disgusting smell coming from the back of the Tesla. And sadly, in the front trunk of the Tesla was the badly decomposed and dismembered body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Celeste had been missing for over a year and a half. She was last seen leaving her house in April of 2024 when she was 13 years old. It was the third time that year that Celeste ran away and was reported missing, but tragically this time, she would never be coming home. The car that her body was found in was registered to the famous viral singer David Anthony Burke, who goes by the stage name David, which is spelled D4VD. David was one of the fastest rising music stars at the time. A lot of his songs were going viral, and actually at the time that this 14-year-old girl's dead body was found in his car, David was actually on a world tour, and he even continued touring after this grim discovery was found in his car, but he eventually canceled the entire tour. So far, the investigation has been really hush-hush, so it's been online sleuths that have actually uncovered a lot of the information that is known on this case, but everything I'm going to tell you from now on is going to be all alleged. It has been rumored that Celeste, at only 14 years old, was in a secret relationship with the 20-year-old singer David, and I use air quotes because if that's true, this is not a real relationship because Celeste was underage and David was not. And online sleuths actually believe that they have uncovered evidence that Celeste and David have been in this secret relationship since Celeste was 11 or 12 years old. Celeste's mother, brother, and teacher have all confirmed that at the time that she disappeared, she had a boyfriend named David. Her mother even says that on the day that Celeste vanished and was never seen again, that she was going to meet up with a guy named David. Celeste and the singer David also appear to have matching tattoos, the word shh on their right index finger. And Celeste also posted on her close friend's story the name David on her finger. It's on her ring finger, and there also appears to be an engagement ring or a promise ring on that finger. Sleuths have also uncovered a lot of photos that appear to show Celeste and David together. A lot of these photos come from David's own close friend story or his iCloud that a hacker allegedly leaked. An unreleased song of David's has also been leaked. This song is a love song. It's called Celeste. And at the time that this song was written, David would have been 18 years old and Celeste would have been 12. Some clips from David's live streams have also gone viral that show what appears to be David and Celeste acknowledging that they shouldn't be on live together and also joking about David SAing children.
We need to delete this. Moz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? He trained you. No, you did. That's controversial. It's controversial of race. Really good. Okay, it's been a good one. Bye. Bye, guys. Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes. Everything goes. Everything.
Clips from another live stream show David and what appears to be Celeste in the background, and at the time that this live stream was done, this would have been while Celeste was missing the first time. Someone in David's Discord asked who the girl was in his live stream, and David replied calling this person a Fed. And since all of this has come out, a lot of people have been going back and dissecting David's old music, pointing at a lot of references to murder and dead bodies in his music video, like in this music video where he puts a dead body in the trunk of a car. I've also been looking into some of his old song lyrics, like in one of his most popular songs, Romantic Homicide, where David says, "I just killed you, and I didn't even regret it." For a while, there really weren't any new updates on this case that were officially confirmed, but then in January 2026, it was announced that David is a suspect in the murder of Celeste. And then just late last night, the LAPD officially confirmed on their social media that David Burke has been arrested for the murder of Celeste Hernandez. David is currently being held without bond, and on Monday, his case will be presented to the DA to see if he will be officially charged and what those charges will be. So I will definitely be updating you as all the new information emerges. If you made it to the end of this video, I just want you to remember Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who was only 14 years old when her life was stolen. Her body was found badly decomposed the day after what was supposed to be her 15th birthday, but she never even made it to 15. Celeste was a little girl. She was a middle school student. She was a daughter. She was a sister. She was a cousin. She was a friend, and she was a very beautiful soul, and her life was taken. in one way or another way too soon. Like always, I want to hear all your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments, but while you're there, just please remember to be respectful and think of Celeste, her family, and her community that are going through one of the hardest things, the worst things that any person could go through. There's an extremely good chance that someone that actually knew and loved Celeste in real life might come across this video, so just please remember that while you're writing your comments, because you actually never know who could be reading your comments. But while you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that was requesting we cover an update on this case, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.
This case is very, very, very heavy and sad from the very beginning until literally the very end. So just be aware of that, but I need to know your thoughts on this. Eileen Carol Pittman was born in 1956 in Rochester in Michigan. And to say her childhood was troubling wouldn't even begin to cover it. I would describe it more to be traumatizing to the biggest degree. Her mother, Diane Warnos, was only 14 years old when she married Eileen's father, 18-year-old Leo Pittman. But after less than 2 years of marriage, Diane filed for divorce. She was 16 years old when she gave birth to Eileen 2 months later. Eileen never met her father. In 1967, Leo Pittman was sentenced to life imprisonment for committing the worst of the worst crimes. His victim was a 7-year-old girl. And when Eileen was almost 4 years old, her mother walked out on her and left her to be with her grandparents. Her grandparents adopted not only Eileen, but also her older brother. However, they kept their real identities from the kids a secret at first, only referring to themselves to be their adoptive parents and not telling them that they were in fact their biological real grandparents. And Eileen's mom walking out on them was probably for the best. She was pretty incapable of caring about anything or anyone other than herself, and not once in her life did she love or care for her children in any capacity, let alone in the way that a mother should. But unfortunately, the new situation the kids found themselves in wasn't any better. The grandparents were awful. They had so many issues of their own, and they would take out all of their anger and struggles out on the kids, psychologically, physically, and when Eileen fell pregnant at only 14 years old, not by choice, she believed that the father could have either been her brother or her grandfather. She was sent away to a home for unwed mothers, and in March of 1972, she gave birth to a baby boy who was then immediately put up for adoption. Shortly after Eileen returned back home, her grandmother passed away from health complications, and her father insisted on kicking out both Eileen and her brother out of the house, and it wasn't long before Eileen ran away and began life on her own. Life on her own, though, was tough. She was a teenage girl with nowhere to go, basically living in the woods of Michigan in the dead of winter, surviving only by trying to make enough money by offering her services to men who would pass by driving by on the road. Throughout that period of her life, Eileen was either hitchhiking, meeting way too many terrible strangers, and or committing petty crimes. A childhood friend of Eileen's that would stay in contact with her would later say, quote, "She had the worst life of anyone I have ever met. When I first heard of Eileen's murder charges, it didn't shock me. If you had only been there and seen how terribly she was treated all her life, it only makes sense," end quote. It is really, really sad and unfortunate and terrible. Eileen Warnos was 18 years old when she was arrested for disorderly conduct amongst other things, and a couple of years later she was arrested again for assault and disturbing the peace after a bartender made her very, very angry and upset. Hitchhiking across America, Eileen eventually made her way to Florida and was presented to this potentially life-changing piece of luck because she met a very wealthy yacht club president, 69-year-old Louis Fell, who fell in love with her, and the two of them got married in 1976. But by that point in her life, the kind of person that she grew up to be was the kind of person who held a lot of anger in her heart, which makes sense. I mean, can you blame her? However, the way that she would express her anger was pretty unhinged. Not saying that her behavior was right, because it wasn't, but knowing about her past, it shouldn't surprise you that she acted out more oftentimes than not. One night, she made a scene while she was out. She was just acting completely erratically, and she was once again arrested and sent to jail. Her now husband, Louis Fell, didn't like that because he lived what a lot of people would describe as a high society lifestyle. He had a reputation to keep, and this kind of marriage wasn't one that was going to work out for him. So he had the marriage annulled after only a few months. Following that, Eileen's life unfortunately resumed its steady downfall spiral. Her brother Keith lost his battle to throat cancer the same year as her marriage and divorce, and because of that, Eileen received a $10,000 check from his life insurance. But she very, very quickly spent all of that money on a luxury car that she ended up wrecking shortly after. Throughout the next 10 years or so, her life continued in this way, offering her services to strange men, still hitchhiking with really no real destination and committing various crimes that range ranged from forgery and theft to assault. But then in 1986, something changes. Because while she was out in Daytona Beach, Florida, Eileen met 24-year-old Tyria Moore, and they began a very intense romantic relationship that will last around 4 years. For the first time in her life, Eileen had someone. Tyria, known as Ty, became her other half pretty much. They lived together, they moved together, they survived together. Eileen continued working on the side of the highways. Ty occasionally worked at different motels here and there. It was not a glamorous life, but doing things together and having company for once in her life, it was the closest thing to love Eileen Wuornos had ever known. She would later say, quote, "I miss Ty, I lost Tyria over this, and the people that lost their loved ones and everything, I really think first about the people that lose their loved ones and then Tyra second." Eileen's first victim was 51-year-old Richard Mallory. Richard was the owner of an electronics repair shop in Clearwater, Florida. He was last seen November 30th of 1989. Eileen and Richard were strangers, but they connected through her line of work. And they made plans to meet up in a remote part of Florida to do whatever it was that they were going to do. I think you know what I'm talking about. And according to Eileen's recollection of events, very shortly after they met up, Richard became very aggressive, very mean, and very forceful very quickly. Eileen had a finding herself in that situation, she pulled it out and she twice in the chest. The following day, she confided in Ty and told her what she did. When Richard's body was discovered the following month, several miles away from his abandoned car, it shocked the town, because of course it would, but he would not be the only victim that would be found in that state. Because after that, Eileen did it again, at least 6 more times, leading to the discovery of 6 middle-aged men, including a construction worker, a rodeo worker, a trucker, and a retired chief of police. Her victims were, like Richard, usually taken to an isolated place multiple times and then robbed. Their bodies were usually found weeks later after being dumped in some area of the woods on the side of the highway, and their vehicles were also often stolen, then abandoned. Eileen and Ty would also often sell objects taken from the victims at local pawn shops. In Eileen's own words, she would later describe the state of her mind during this crime spree, quote, "I really got tired of it all. I was angry about the Johns," end quote. She also stated, quote, "To me, this world is nothing but evil, and my own evil just happened to come out because of the circumstances of what I was doing," end quote. So, of course, the sudden discovery of multiple bodies around the same area in Florida had law enforcement on high alert, and before long, they were able to find a stolen vehicle. They run the plates, it belongs to a victim, they recover fingerprints, and after testing those, because Eileen Wuornos had been in trouble with the law before, meaning that her fingerprints were in the system, they got an exact match. And just like that, in January of 1991, Eileen was arrested. As part of their investigation, police officers tracked down Ty in Pennsylvania because different witnesses had often seen the two of them together, and they made her a deal. They told her, "If you tell us everything that you know, if you give us everything that you have, we will make sure that no charges are filed against you." So they offered her full immunity in exchange for her cooperation. Ty agreed, and she told them everything that she knew, but that still was not enough, because if they could, authorities wanted a confession from Eileen herself. And their plan to get that was to work with Ty to have her make phone calls to Eileen to get Eileen to confess, and that's exactly what they did. And with authorities listening to every word, Ty called Eileen, pretending to be really scared, saying that she was scared that authorities were coming after her. And in one recorded phone call, Eileen, trying to protect the woman that she loved, promised, quote, "I will not let you be involved in the picture. You are not the one. I am the one who did everything," end quote. But on that phone call as well, when it was just the two of them, important to note that Eileen told Ty that everything that she did in self-defense, but that was all that authorities needed, and Eileen was officially charged in connection to 6 separate cases. On January 16th of 1991, she confessed. However, Eileen would only go to trial once for her first victim, Richard Mallory, because she was adamant that she was acting in self-defense, claiming that Richard. The other charges with the other victims either ended in her pleading either no contest or guilty, so those did not go to trial, but not because Eileen agreed that those were not in self-defense. She stuck to her word that every time that she claimed a victim was because that man had either overpowered her or attempted to, explaining that she had met up with all sorts of men for her entire life, and saying that her only motive in these 6 cases for fighting back was because those men were clearly there to make her their victim. Richard did. The other men tried to, but her story was that it was always in self-defense. She just let the others go because she felt that she needed to, quote, "get right with God," end quote. In Richard's case, she knew that she had no chance of the jury believing her, but she wanted to try. The trial began January 14th of 1992. Eileen pleaded not guilty. Before the trial, she spoke to reporters outside of the courthouse with desperation in her voice, saying, quote, "I'm never going to get a fair trial, and they're going to me. They're gonna electrocute me, give me life in prison, and I don't deserve it. I don't deserve life. It was just self-defense, end quote. She was right that the jury would not believe her. Even though it came out that Richard Mallory had been convicted and given a 10-year sentence for proving that he literally was the kind of man who would do such a thing because he had done it before. Eileen Wuornos was sentenced to 6 death sentences. She spent over 10 years on death row at the Broward Correctional Institute in Florida. During this time, she read, she wrote letters, she gave documentary interviews that revealed a mind that held a lot of anger, grief, heartbreak, and rage. Once, reflecting on who she might have been, she stated, quote, "Now, if I do my life all over again, if I came from a family that was supportive and everything was financially stable, I wouldn't be here," end quote. Her sentence was carried out and she became the 10th woman in the United States to ever be executed. Yeah, I told you guys, so extremely sad from beginning to the very end. Not excusing her behavior, but I do feel like if she had had a different kind of upbringing, she would have been a completely different person, is my opinion. But that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for spending time with me today and for listening to this story. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.
Greenville, Mississippi, 2005. 18-year-old Latasha Norman just graduated high school and is preparing to go to Jackson State University in the fall, HBCU. And she's excited about this because this is a tradition for her family. A long line of Normans have attended JSU. During that time, Latasha was dating Stanley Cole, who was a few years older than her. He had been finished with high school, but they were dating all the while Latasha was in high school. And when she started at Jackson State in the fall of 2005, she encouraged Stanley to, do something with yourself. You should come on and try to do this college thing. And he agreed. She helped him get into Jackson State. He went for criminal justice and she was in college for accounting. By 2007, the relationship had ran its course and the two decided to go their separate ways. They even both started dating other people. Latasha started dating a young man named Marquise, and she liked him so much that she was ready for her family to meet him. So she invited him to Greenville to watch her brother play basketball. At the basketball game, Marquise and one of Latasha's cousins got into a heated exchange. Now, it's unclear what the argument was about, but Marquise was ready to go back to Jackson after that. The very next day, Latasha called her favorite cousin, Takesha, but when she got on the phone, Takesha said that it sounded like she couldn't really say what she wanted to say. So she told Latasha that she will call her back because she was busy at the moment. But when she tried to call Latasha back, Latasha didn't answer. She didn't think anything of it until November 13th when Latasha's mother couldn't get a hold of her. She would usually talk to Latasha in between her classes. She was now in her junior year, so her and her mother had a routine going on. When she couldn't get a hold of Latasha, she decided to call Marquise, who also did not answer the phone. The next day, November 14th, Marquise finally called Patricia back, who is Latasha's mother, and he said he hasn't seen or heard from her since the day before, but her car is still on campus. That's when her parents immediately got en route to Jackson. Now, while they're on their way, Marquise called them back and said that he had reported Latasha missing. Latasha's father, whose name was Danny, was looking at that kind of suspicious because why you didn't wait till we get there? How you gonna jump the gun and just report her missing? But when they got there and looked for Latasha all over campus, they didn't find her anywhere. So the campus police asked for help from Jackson police. That's when they started interviewing people close to Latasha, like her roommate, Marquise, people around campus, but nobody has seen or heard anything. All they know is that she made it to her class on the morning and afternoon of the 13th. After that, she never made it back to her dorm room, but her car is still in the parking lot. But it did come out from one of Latasha's friends about a month before her disappearance. All her tires were slashed on campus, and Latasha did report that. On November 15th, just 2 days after the last time she was seen, Latasha's cousins decided to go to Jackson themselves to look for her. They made flyers, they went door to door, but still turned up with nothing. By this time, Latasha's face is all over Jackson, all on the local news. But the Jack police needed help from the FBI. And the first thing the FBI did was track Latasha's phone. Now, in 2007, tracking phones was still fairly new, but they tracked her phone to Marquise' apartment and they showed it traveling back towards campus, but halfway the signal just stopped. Now, of course, this raised more eyebrows towards Marquise, so they decided to question him again. And Marquise said yes, Latasha did spend a night the night before she went missing, but I didn't see or hear from her after she left. That's when he told the detectives, y'all should look into Stanley Cole, her ex boyfriend. Now, the police didn't know much about Stanley, just that he was her ex. But when they dug a little deeper, they found that about 2 months before her disappearance, Latasha had filed a report against Stanley. He not only broke her cell phone, but he had hit her as well. And she reported this to the campus police and the Jacksonville police. Marquise, who was Latasha's current boyfriend, story was adding up. The police didn't think he was involved. They started focusing more on Stanley, getting more into his business. He had a girlfriend named Simone, and Simone was pregnant with his child. But what raised police's eyebrows was Stanley had withdrew from Jackson State just a week or two prior. On November 22nd, 9 days after Latasha is reported missing, the police are contacted by a local car lot. They said that a car has been traded in, but on the inside of the trunk, the carpet has been cut out. It was a 98 Dodge Neon. The car lot thought that it was suspicious and something they never seen before. When the police ran the VIN number, the car was registered to Simone, Stanley's girlfriend. When the car was impounded for inspection, they found a significant amount of blood in the trunk. While waiting on the results for the blood, the police decided to pull Stanley's phone records, and he was in fact on campus the day that Latasha went missing. But police wanted to interview Simone first, so they called her in for questioning. But before Simone even got there, the police got the results that blood was indeed Latasha Norman's in the back of that trunk. When she got to the police station, she brought Stanley with her. Now, the police wasn't expecting this, but they questioned her anyway. They asked her about November 13th and where was Stanley at that time. She said that Stanley took the trash out, but he was gone for 40 whole minutes. So she was confused by that. Then the police decided to question Stanley because he was there. In the interrogation room, he was very nonchalant. When the police asked him, what do you think should happen to the person who did this to Latasha? He said he didn't know. When the police told them the evidence that they had and asked him just to do the right thing, that's when Stanley started to get teary eyed. He broke down. He told the investigators, if I tell you where she is, can you please let me see my mother? They let him see his mother in hopes that his mother would talk him into doing the right thing. But no, that did not happen. The mother went in there and said something to Stanley because when she came out, she said, is my son arrested? The police said no. She said, well, let us leave. And they left. But they had enough evidence and they got a warrant. Stanley was arrested on November 29th. During interrogation, he told the police that him and Latasha got into an argument in Simone's car about their relationship and everything they've been through. And during that argument, he had hit Simone with a backhanded fist and she lost conscience. He said he panicked and put her in the trunk. After he put her in the trunk, Stanley went to go pick up friends. He went to go pick up his pregnant girlfriend. They went to go get something to eat. They out just having a grand old time. All of this while Latasha is in the trunk. When he dropped everybody off, that's when he took Latasha to a remote wooded area in North Jackson. He took the police to her body, which was badly decomposed. They had to pull her dental records just to identify her. But remember, he said he only hit her with a backhanded fist, even though the police knew that was a lie because it was too much blood in the trunk. A backhanded fist killing her. Come on now. They just roll with the punches because they wanted to find her body. But the autopsy report showed that Latasha was stabbed in her ribs. On March 6, 2009, Stanley was charged and found guilty of capital murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But just 2 years later, after his conviction, he filed an appeal saying that he didn't get a fair trial due to all the media attention, and his appeal got granted. He was going for manslaughter. And this is what Latasha's parents felt about that. They said they could not go through another trial. They said it was very hard for them the first time, and there's no way that they could do that again. So they offered Stanley a plea deal. He went from life to 40 consecutive years with the agreement of Latasha's parents. Latasha Norman's name will live through Jackson State University forever. They opened up a Latasha Norman Center for people dealing with domestic violence. They have a 5K run in honor of her every year. These is her parents right here. Latasha name will remain alive. Rest in peace to her.